This is part 7 of my ex try to swat me, and this is when I started getting investigated at work.
Shortly after my dad says, "Don't trust the FBI," I'm all of a sudden unable to text my immediate family. I can't text my parents, they can't text me, I can't text my daughter, she can't text me. I don't know why, but it's only my immediate family. Everybody else I can text just fine, it's only them. Now, I would later end up going into T-Mobile, and I asked them why my phone number was blocked. They claimed it's because somebody had set up international call blocking. Well, this is clearly a bullshit answer, because if you look right here, my dad actually has a text message from an international phone number. So it is clearly impossible that international text message blocking was active, because if it was, then my dad would not have received this text message. So I remember back in June, my boss came up to me and told me it's not a good idea to post about your ex. I had made some sort of announcement on OnlyFans saying that I had hired an attorney that specifically specializes in pre-clearance video review. So a pre-clearance attorney is basically somebody who reviews your videos, ensures that nothing that you say is slanderous, and ensures that you're following all the rules and all the laws. And then he approves the video for publication. So I had made this announcement on OnlyFans saying that I was basically going to be making videos about some content creators, most notably my ex. And for some reason in June, I remember my boss came up to me and told me, it's not a good idea to post about your ex. And I was just like, first of all, how do you even know I was gonna do that? And I was like, why, boss? And he's just like, he didn't say anything. He's just like, it's not a good idea. But he wouldn't tell me why. And I was like, why? And I asked again, why not? And he's just like, That was all that he would say. So I found it supremely weird. It almost seemed like somebody had called him or something. I don't know if it was my ex or his sister or somebody behind it, but I just kind of like shrugged it off. I was like, well, whatever, they're just some stupid, silly videos. It's not that big of a deal. So I just decided to proceed with starting to make my pre-clearance videos. Anyway, I start recording, and then maybe like one or 2 weeks after I start recording that is when I got every single device hacked into. Then after I got every single device that I own hacked into, I think I took that next Monday off.
Well, that Monday, I went to a USPS. Remember how I told you I had 5 or 6 biohazard boxes in the back of my trunk on the day that I saw that police car facing my vehicle as I walked out of the Apple store? Well, I'm walking into this USPS so I can safely ship off my biohazard boxes, drop them off, ship them off so they can be disposed of safely. And as I'm walking into this USPS, I notice what looks like a plainclothes police officer. 2 of them, actually. They are following me inside of this USPS. And they stand behind me in line as if they're going to ship a package. However, I notice when they go up to the counter, they keep looking over at me, and looking over at me to see what I'm doing with these biohazard boxes. Now, apparently I had lost the label for one of these biohazard boxes. I only had like 4 or 5, even though I had 5 or 6 boxes, so I was missing one label. So I had to pay for one of these boxes to be shipped out of pocket. And the USPS clerk seemed to be really surprised when I said that I wanted a receipt. He's like, really? You want a receipt? I'm like, yeah, I want a receipt. And he seems surprised by that. So that's one of the times that I noticed what looks like law enforcement following me. And I noticed it was one male and one female. And the male, he looked like he had the most stereotypical like cop face. Immediately after I dropped off these boxes was when I went down to my workplace to go see my boss. I wanted to tell him everything that was happening to me and show him all the evidence in person since I was unable to send any of it to him.
At that time back then, I didn't know who was behind it. I thought that maybe somebody was going to blackmail me. Somebody knew that I was making the content that I was making and they were going to blackmail me for ransom money or something like that. So I just decided to tell my boss everything about my work. I was like, listen boss, I gotta tell you something. And I told him all about my fucking work. And my boss is chill as fuck. He was just like, well, thank you for telling me. And you know what? As far as I'm concerned, that's not an extra job, that's just your hobby. So that to me was like a huge weight lifted off my shoulders. And it felt really good to have somebody like my boss standing behind me, you know? And he was like really being supportive and doing everything that he could to try to help me. One of the times that I'm speaking to my boss, and this is during the 2 weeks that I had taken off work, but there was maybe like 2 or 3 days that I decided to come into the office and I speak to my boss and I tell him every single weird thing that keeps happening to me. One of the times that I'm inside the office and I'm speaking to my boss, he suddenly gets a phone call while we're in the middle of talking. And I can actually hear him speaking to somebody on the other line. And this person who's on the other line asks him what his position is. And my boss, being the badass that he is, he answers, "I'm the presiding judge." And then I shit you not, the very next question right after that was, "When are you retiring?" And I remember speaking to IT about getting hacked into. And I told them that I had an appointment with the FBI and the FBI canceled my appointment. And IT actually responded, yeah, they're not the best. Which, by the way, they are actually not the first programmer to tell me that. I had some other programmers tell me the exact same thing. So I don't know what it is that the programmers know that we don't seem to know, but that seems to be a common opinion among programmers. I remember my boss was really confident at first. He seemed confident when I was telling him everything that had happened to me. And he seemed like he was confident and satisfied with the answers. This is after I started working again at the office, by the way. I started working again at the office after taking 2 weeks off. After I took off 2 weeks, I didn't have any more PTO, so I came back to work. A week after I told my boss everything that had happened, I caught him up on everything. He seemed happy with the answers. Maybe like a week after that, my boss suddenly comes up to me and he's like, is there anything about you that you need to tell me about? And when I looked at him, he looked like he was pale as a ghost. Like he looked scared out of his mind. He was almost like shaking. He looked like something scared the crap out of him. And I was like, no, boss, is everything okay? Like, there's nothing. Are you sure? Like, he's like, are you sure? And I was like, yeah, is everything okay? And he wouldn't tell me, he looked like he wanted to tell me something, but he didn't. And I think somebody actually approached him and told him something, but I don't know what was said, so I can't defend myself. So because of that weird incident, I knew that I was getting investigated at work, but I don't know why. I just figured at the time, my ex or one of his associates, somebody called my workplace about saying something about me. I didn't think it was seriously that deep as it was. So around the same time all of this is happening, I mysteriously stopped getting paid from my 9-to-5 workplace and also from my largest content creator account. And when I asked my content creator account why, it turns out the reason is because I'm getting quote unquote investigated. But I don't know why. It's just bizarre that would happen. And I don't find it a coincidence that all that seems to be happening at the same time. In July, I didn't get paid for a whole month. I basically didn't receive income for over a month and I had to fight to get my income. And all this is happening coincidentally in the same month that I'm also being blocked and prevented from accessing my own doctors and medications. You can actually see here I'm emailed OF support and they basically told me that I have to resubmit all my paperwork for every single performer that I've ever had in order to get paid again. Well, basically that means that I'm getting investigated. But why? Who reported me? And I also knew that I was getting investigated at my apartment complex. And I say this because one of the times that I threw away my trash, you have to bear in mind, this is at 2 o'clock in the morning. There's literally nobody outside. My apartment complex, it's not like one of those, college dorm places where there's a bunch of parties late at night. It's not like that at all. It's a bunch of, working people, they're asleep by 9, 10 p.m. And I remember I threw away my trash at 2 in the morning. And I had 4 or 5 bags of trash on this day. So I went down and I threw away 2 bags of trash, come back upstairs. And when I open my door again to go back outside, I all of a sudden see 3 men. They're basically inside of where the trash bins are. And they're looking through the trash bin. They're looking to see what's inside, what I threw away. And I was like, what the fuck? I was so sketched out that I ended up not throwing away the rest of my trash that night. And you have to remember, because I've seen signs of entry in my house, things that I had started disappearing. Things that weren't there suddenly started appearing. And some of these things were also pretty incriminating, I should say. So that's the reason why I didn't want to throw away my fucking trash. Yeah, it's probably not a good idea to post this because they're probably going to use that as a reason to cavity search me next. But the only reason I'm bringing up that story is to illustrate that I was indeed getting investigated at work. Well, on August 13th, I discovered why all of this was happening to me. I discovered that my work computer had been hacked into. And up until this point, I thought surely nobody's actually dumb enough to hack into my work computer. I was not worried at all about anybody hacking into my work computer because, it's government-owned property. I didn't think anybody would be freaking dumb enough to do that. So August 13th, I discovered my work computer had been hacked into. And apparently these files are all associated with a certain app. I'm going to call it Luna. It's basically similar sounding in name. And I discovered it by accident. So at work, we're always instructed to install Windows updates whenever we see them. I'm a procrastinator, so this Windows update pops up, but I'm a procrastinator, so I just decide not to install this update for 2 weeks, almost 2-3 weeks. I just decide not to do it. Then I finally hit install, and I notice the word Python keeps popping up. Now I understand Python is a programming language, but I've never seen the word Python pop up like that before. So out of curiosity, I just decided to search for Python. All these files and folders popped up that shouldn't have been there. And they're all saying different geographic names, different continents, countries. These files and folders, they were saying Asia, Antarctica, Africa, Europe. One says Korea Adobe, Brazil. And then for some reason one says Indian. I don't know what's up with that. So these files were all associated with the app called Luna. It's a totally normal app for my industry. A lot of people use this app. And in fact, people who work for the county use this app. There's absolutely nothing strange about this app. I actually didn't even open this app or use it in a long time. And I called the makers of Luna to confirm that. I called this company and I asked them, hey, when's the last time that I opened this app? And they told me that the last time that I opened this app was May 2024. Well, how is it possible that an app that I haven't opened since May 2024 is suddenly acting strange and suddenly populating viruses and all these weird random files and folders onto my work computer in July 2025? That doesn't make sense at all. Shortly after finding these files and folders, I would end up taking my personal work computer, my personal PC, to a computer repair shop. And I spoke to the manager and I said, hey, listen, can you open up my computer and tell me when my computer was last opened? And he's showing me all the different dates. Now bear in mind, I actually have not opened this computer since 2024. And there are a bunch of dates that it has been opened in 2025 that I don't recognize. But the one that stood out to me was the one on January 9th. And it's taken almost at 4 o'clock in the morning. It's like at 3:50 in the morning. And the reason why this stood out to me is because on January 8th, you can see in my Garmin app, you can actually see that on the evening of January 8th, I actually slept 6 hours, 30 something minutes. I slept almost 7 hours on January 8th. It is therefore physically impossible that this January 9th open log was actually me. So it was because of this instance that I actually started wearing my Garmin watch again. I also remember back in May, my ex told me that he used my personal MacBook without asking. And I was like, wait, why would you use that without asking? I thought I was incredibly suspicious at the time. You know, I already didn't trust this guy around that time frame. And it's like, why are you using my shit when you have your own computer, you know? I actually wonder if he planted some sort of SSD card or hard drive or something into my MacBook. I'm not sure if it's a good idea for me to talk about this, but I'm gonna talk about this because this part is actually pertinent to the story. At one point, I was sticking SD cards, wrapping them inside of a condom, tying the edge of a condom, and sticking them where the sun don't shine. And you might think, dude, that's fucking crazy. Why the hell would you do that? Well, the reason why is because remember how I told you that I had seen a canine and it would sometimes follow me and sniff my suitcase. And I actually know that sometimes those canines, they can actually be trained to alert on command. Meaning, even if you don't have anything on you, they can actually train the canine to alert and bark on command, so they actually have a reason to search you. And because of that, I was super worried that I was going to end up getting all of my data stolen. So because of that, I made copies of it. I distributed it, I gave some to my boss, I gave some to some of my friends, and then I started sticking a couple where the sun don't shine. Now, one thing about this is that if you're doing this as a woman, you have to change the condom frequently, because otherwise you get infections. It's just like sitting there and a bunch of bacteria is harboring, right? So I remember one of the times I was at work and I thought to myself, I was like, oh, hold on, it's been like almost 2 or 3 days since I changed the condom. I should probably do that right now. So I went to go change it. I went to the bathroom to go change it. And I remember ripping open the condom, putting my SSD cards in a new condom, tying it, sticking it where the sun don't shine. And I took my used condom, the broken one, and the brand new condom wrapper, and I put it inside one of those tampon canisters, you know, like those tampon containers. All the women know what this looks like. Basically looks like a tin jar. You flip open the lid, and I noticed when I placed this in there, there were some pads inside of there, some used period pads. I threw it away in there, and I went back to my work desk. And I was sitting there for maybe like 10-15 minutes, and I was thinking about it. I was like, you know what, it's probably not a good idea if I leave my used condom in the trash. Like if the janitor finds that, she might think that's really fucking weird. And she might, you know, I don't know, notify security or something. I don't know. So I decide to go back within 10 minutes of me throwing this away. I go back into the bathroom to retrieve the items that I had thrown away. However, I noticed, to my shock and horror, when I flipped open the tampon box, only my condom wrapper, the new condom wrapper that I had opened, only that was in there. My used condom was gone. And interestingly enough, those used pads that I saw in there, they were still in there. But it's not like the janitor came by and changed everything out and dumped it all out. That's not what happened. Somebody deliberately went in there right after I used the bathroom, picked the condom out, and then I don't know what they did with it. Were they testing it to see what I was carrying? I don't know.
Now, the big question is, was the camera planted legally or illegally at my workplace? Because I don't know if you know this, but the FBI is legally allowed to plant cameras in your bathroom and your bedroom if you are being accused of a very serious crime, such as treason, espionage, or terrorism. And one of the documentaries that I saw was about a Chinese spy named Catherine Leung. She apparently seduced 2 FBI agents. And you know how the FBI found out? They secretly planted a hidden camera inside of her hotel room. This is when they found her in bed with an FBI agent. So she was banging 2 FBI agents. They were leaking all sorts of intel to her, and she was sending all of that intel back to China. So remember this, the FBI can legally spy on you and put cameras in your fucking bathroom or bedroom if you are being accused of a very serious crime against the government or the country. And they can do this even if those accusations are completely baseless. So just remember that. And in these types of crimes, they do not have to notify you or inform you that you have a search warrant out for you or an investigation is being conducted on you, because obviously that would change the outcome of the case and all of the evidence. So they could just do all of this without you ever knowing. People might think, who cares? I'm not a criminal, so I have nothing to worry about. Yeah, that's what I thought too. I'm just an ordinary person. There's nothing extraordinary about me or special about me that the government would be interested in. Yet all of this still happened to me. Think about it. If this were done legally, that means a judge signed off on this warrant. So I just want to know what evidence was presented to this judge to justify an investigation on this level. So people should be worried. All it takes is for you to get hacked into and framed, which the government can easily do. Then all it takes is for somebody to make a phone call about you with an accusation that may be completely, totally baloney and false. And bam, next thing you know, you're at the center of a statewide or federal investigation. And remember how in my first few video series, I showed exactly how I was being framed and being made to look like I was somehow affiliated with the country of China. So after seeing these international files on my work computer, I realized that these files may be related to this whole series of incidents that have been happening to me. Now the only mystery left to solve is, who planted a camera at my workplace bathroom? Did they do it legally or did they do it illegally? Because remember, the PI that I hired, he also planted GPS trackers and other surveillance equipment to spy on and conspire to destroy the artwork of a random artist who was critical of the PRC. That's it, this guy was just an artist. So the big question is, who the hell planted a camera in my workplace bathroom? Who was this done by, and was this done with or without a warrant signed by a judge? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to demonstrate exactly how this looked inside of the bathroom. So imagine that there's an SSD card placed inside of this condom. Now one of the things that I did was I tied the end of this condom, I double knotted it just like this. So I go to throw away the condom. Now imagine inside of this period waistband, there's a used pad right here. So obviously, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be ripping open the condom just like that. And obviously there's a big hole in this condom, and from there, I threw it away. I just put it away on top of the used pad, and then walked away outside of the bathroom. And when I went back to the bathroom the second time, only 10-15 minutes later, that condom was missing. To my absolute horror, the condom was missing. So imagine this. Condom inside the waistband was gone. However, the used pad that was right underneath it, still there. Still there. Only the condom was missing and not the pad. So this is how I knew that the janitor is not the one who picked up the condom. Another thing that was still inside of this waistband was that my wrapper was still there. The wrapper was still there, but the actual condom, the used condom itself, was not. So this is how I knew the janitor had not dropped by. Somebody very clearly picked up that used condom, left the wrapper, left the pad, and that's it. So somebody picked up that condom, and they were probably going to use it to test it for something. I don't know what, but probably to test it for something. DNA, maybe other things. And some of you might be wondering, why would you go so far as to put a condom inside of your vagina? Well, have you seen all the shit that's been happening to me? I was very obviously aware by this point that somebody in law enforcement or government was coming after me. And I was very concerned that at any moment they could pull me over, they could search my shit, they could seize everything. So because of that, I literally made like 15 to 20 SD cards and SSD cards, and I distributed them. I put them in random places, gave some to my friends, and I also kept 1 or 2 copies where the sun don't shine. I was gonna do everything I could to protect my evidence, because without it, they could literally frame me for anything. They could put me away for treason, espionage, any fucking crime they wanted to frame me for. That was obviously a work computer that was funded with taxpayer dollars, and I was being framed to make it look like I was sending intel to other countries. Like, that's a very, very serious crime. So yeah, extreme situations call for extreme measures. I felt it was necessary to do anything that I could to protect my evidence.